The Rules Committee will come to order. Good afternoon. Our nation's law enforcement officers are reeling after years of coordinated effort to defund and demoralize them by radical Democrats. Indeed, calls to defund and distrust the police have been bolstered by voices in this very chamber. Even Vice President Harris has applauded these efforts on the campaign trail and urged her supporters to bail out individuals who plunged Minneapolis into chaos and caused upwards of $350 million in destruction. Violent crime has exploded as a result of these efforts. For example, Philadelphia canceled $19 million in much-needed funding and saw 561 homicides the following year, the highest number ever recorded in their history. At least 16 U.S. cities set new homicide records in 2021. In 2024, crime is still rampant across the country. Look no further than right here in the nation's capital. From 2022 to 2023, violent crime in D.C. increased by 37% and robberies increased by 65%. In that same time frame, motor vehicle thefts rose 107%. Longtime residents, new arrivals, visitors, government staffers, and even members of Congress have all been impacted. Outside the Beltway, New York City had to deploy the National Guard within their subway system, and the FBI is launching a national carjacking task force for the very first time ever. The American people share our concern. According to the Gallup, roughly 6 in 10 American adults believe crime should be the top priority for policymakers. To cut down on crime, you have to catch criminals and bring them to justice. To do that, we need strong local police forces. But our law enforcement officers find themselves in a dangerous position. Thanks to the left's absurd movement to demonize police, many offices are understaffed and lack sufficient resources. Now they are facing increased risk, direct threats to their safety because of their profession, and all with reduced manpower. In 2023, a record number of 5,363 New York police officers were injured in the line of duty. According to the National Law Enforcement Memorial Fund, 136 law enforcement officers tragically died in the line of duty last year, including Deputy Josh Owen, not far from my home, whose name has been added to the memorial this year. In the past year in Minnesota, we have lost 3 officers and a firefighter in the line of duty. Tragedy is striking in police families all across the country. Our officers need our help, and they need it now. It's why we're here today. As tens of thousands of our men and women in blue travel to the nation's capital, House Republicans are taking up 7 measures to support them. One of the shocking trends we see here in D.C. is the rise in juvenile crime paired with the lack of consequences. Soft-on-crime policies and anti-police rhetoric have only made it harder to be a police officer today. Congress must give them the tools they need to protect their communities, loved ones, and themselves in the wake of the recklessly irresponsible defund the police movement. The D.C. Crimes Act will reduce criminal activity in the district by making it easier to bring criminal juveniles to justice and ensuring the D.C. Council cannot continue its soft-on-crime agenda. The LEOSA Reform Act expands concealed carry rights for off-duty and retired police officers, guaranteeing that they can use their training to keep America safe on or off duty. Cops have an incredibly tough job. We have an obligation to back the blue and safeguard their mental health. In that vein, H.Res. 1213 acknowledges the harsh realities police officers face, recognizing the mental toll their jobs can take, condemns efforts to defund and demoralize them, and expresses solemn appreciation for the invaluable role they play in our communities. Additionally, H.R. 7581 would bolster reporting requirements for assaults on officers and require the Department of Justice to report to Congress on how these traumatic incidents affect the mental health of our men and women in blue. We would be remiss if we did not address the strain President Biden's self-inflicted border crisis has placed on law enforcement. From retail theft rings to targeting, beatings, and outright murder, migrant crime has exploded in every corner of the country. With that in mind, HRES 1210 condemns the tremendous burden, the border crisis has placed on officers. And our Police Border Act requires the Attorney General to submit a report on the crisis's impact at the federal, state, local, and tribal level. And finally, HR 7343 responds to the terrible mob attack by 14 asylum seekers on 2 New York City police officers and countless other cases like it, amending the Immigration and Nationality Act to provide for the detention of certain aliens who commit assault against law enforcement officers. Additionally, we will consider one item in support of Israel in its continued fight against Hamas, Iran, and the Houthis. When President Biden made the decision to withhold weapons shipments to our greatest friend, major non-NATO ally, and lone democracy in the region, he usurped congressional authority. Once again, he signaled to hostile actors under his leadership, America does not pose a serious threat to their mission. Israel deserves nothing less than our full and steadfast support while they wrestle with a myriad number of threats to their continued existence. The Israeli Security Assistance Support Act rebukes President Biden's unilateral decision to pause arms transfer, ensure prompt delivery of the transfers, and reasserts congressional support for Israel. I look forward to the opportunity to advance these pro-law enforcement measures and to set the record straight on America's support for Israel.